Well, we are 4 weeks into Super Rugby Pacific and still no closer to locking in which Aussie team wants to lose a semi-final across the ditch this year. New South Wales is in mourning after shipping 59 to the Canes. Will 2026 be the year of the tar? Meanwhile, the Force dropped their lollies in Dunedin and remind us how fucking frustrating it can be to support them. But the piece de resistance in Canberra, Queensland, and the three blind mice wearing Damon Murphy's skin suit sneak home against the Brumbies. It's all happening and some. Welcome back to the Scrumbags Rugby Podcast.
Hearing from the crowds that you're tough as woodpecker.
Apologising for kicking a drop goal.
Jorgensen, Max Jorgensen, no, he didn't. Oh my goodness me! Rock's there, Rock! He's got the record. Tom Wright, just too good. This is ecstasy for Wallabies fans.
Welcome back to the Scrumbags Rugby Podcast. We are your one-stop shop for everything Aussie rugby. Now, I'm your host, Mitch, and with me, as always, is co-host Lachie, who this week is doing his best impression of Damon Murphy with his sunglasses on to be Blind Freddy. Lachie, welcome back to the pod.
Mitch, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for having me. I am fat and full with the taste of Queensland victory, and seeing as though I am now sensory deprived, everything tastes sweeter. Even though I know deep down inside that was pretty dicey, to say the least.
My question for you, are you playing the ref or the TMO in this situation?
I don't know. I think I'm playing probably everyone north of the Tweed. Okay. The Sunnies just signify, not only because our future's so bright that we have to wear sunglasses, but that we got away with absolute murder. Queensland had on, I don't know how. I have no idea how the Reds somehow managed to pull that out of the fire. They are 12 points down. No, 10 points down. What was it? That was far behind.
Yeah, it was 12 points down. 12 points down. Oh, my God. With a few minutes to go.
100 seconds. It was insane. And we need to knock it off right off the top. Felipe Daugunu has dropped that stone cold from the final restart, and somehow the Reds go 90 metres back upfield, get the scrum for a knock-on as the Brumbies scramble back and win it. It was absolute chaos.
Yeah, that match had everything. It was a real ding-dong battle. It started, an hour and a half, 2 hours after the scheduled kickoff time, and players hanging around, never know if we were going to actually get a game of rugby that night or what. They're going to share the chockies, and the players, to their credit, did everything they could to possibly make that a draw. And then a little bit of referee intervention at the end there sees Queensland manage to get the win. But, to their credit, you play what's in front of you. You play the whistle, as we always talk about in junior rugby. So if the referee doesn't see it, the TMO's gone for a toilet break, you get away with it. You score the try, you win the game. That's what it is at the end of the day.
Well, that's exactly what Kissy said in post-game. So there was basically first question off the dome to both coaches. Bernie Larkham's up first, his press conference, and he goes, what do you think about that Felipe Daugunu restart? And he said, well, that was a knock-on. And the referees have got that wrong, but you play on and we just have to deal with that. And Kissy gets asked the same question and he says, and I quote, I wrote it down here somewhere because it was excellent. We just played whatever the whistle was, and he's just grinning from ear to ear. So, the Reds know that they've got away with one there. I think the call coming from Stan, I think Morgan Turunu probably nailed it, saying it should have been an accidental offside call, because even if Daugunu managed to regather that somehow and juggle it and bounce it backwards, it still hit McRight in front of him. And therefore, that's a half arm to the Brumbies. They would have either scrummed it down, closed it out from there, even just tap it and pop a drop goal for all they care. It's it feels like it's just the most miraculous call, especially when Shawnee Maloney in commentary team with 3 minutes to go saying, well, it's just a consolation, hunting for a bonus point, it's game over. And then he was doing his absolute noodle as Carter Gordon slips over outside Tane Edmund to score the match winner. It was crazy scenes. And you're right about the Lightning. That was absolutely bonkers to be delayed for so long. And I think you probably saw that the Brumbies came better out of that because they started so quickly in this game, Mitch.
Yeah, that's one of the things that the Brumbies have been so... Well, I guess it's a mixed bag for them so far this season. Some games they've started strong, but they haven't necessarily capitalised on it. And that was one thing that we saw this week, was the change when they got into the opposition 22. It was, 2 minutes on the clock before they scored their first Maul try. And in weeks gone past, that first game against the Force and then second week against the Crusaders, you're thinking about all the missed opportunities that the Brumbies had made, where they were in and played all of the rugby in the opposition 22 and came away with very little points. So to their credit, they've made those changes and they're actually scoring points now. The thing was, though, that they just weren't able to hang on for the full 80 minutes, and to let it go right on full time, there's a real coach killer and a fan heartbreak moment. But I think the only positive out of it was that it happened at 10:40 or something at night. So most of the Canberra faithful were already at home in bed.
Yeah, it's tough, especially after we're trying to hype up Canberra fans. Get down to the Brumbies, they've just beaten the Blues. You get caught in a lightning storm and your team gets pipped in the 81st minute. It just would have been an absolute gut punch. But as you mentioned, the Brumbies still started so well. Lachie Shaw goes over, Hudson Crichton sacrifices his ribs to get the ball away to Suaalii Cale, who's over again. He just keeps scoring tries. He's a machine. But the Reds, that was easily their best performance of the year, because we mentioned that they looked rusty against the Landers. They didn't turn up against the Tahs at all in round one. But they're starting to get some really slick passing passages together. It feels like the skills are really high, and we saw that with the short passing to get, I think it was Lachie Anderson over from the first try. That was Harry Wilson with a little inside ball. And then that attack down the left, 6 pairs of hands to get Josh Fluke over. That was really nice footy in the wet.
That really, really was. And we'll get back to the footy in a second, but I would be remiss not to raise a point that my wife has particularly said that she wants raised at this point of the podcast, and that was Lukan Salakai-Loto with the DAC of Caden Neville in the maul. She's absolutely furious that is not a yellow card or a send-off. She said if that happened in public, you would be arrested for assault. How can you get away with it intentionally on a rugby field? It was pretty evident that Lukan was intentionally pulling his pants down, goes for the pants, then goes for the undies, gets the full moon on display for the TV. But you almost, as Caden Neville, get the last laugh, because if Salakai-Loto was actually worried about defence at that instance, he probably would have stopped the try as opposed to standing around trying to dack his opposition and letting them score 7 points.
Yeah, look, I think if they don't score a try there, they're coming back to have a look at it. But I'm glad it was just the backside. Caden Neville's over 2 metres and 130 kilos. The last thing we need is to someone to blind the cameras and everyone back home.
That's right.
He's a lot of man, Caden Neville. So
what does happen in that instance? It very rarely happens in rugby. You see a full DAC, particularly frontal, but they don't bother blurring it for a full moon. But what happens if a player loses?
I'm just glad, because I don't think they've got enough pixels to cover Caden. So it's probably a good thing that we only got the backside of him. But it was pretty funny. And just I feel like that probably sums up the relationship in these Aussie derbies as well. You want to beat the crap out of each other, but it is fun. And especially the Wallabies that have played together, mucky around. Caden's just laughing, pulling his pants up after Lukan dacks him. His mates just scored the try. So it's all good chat and good value as well. He probably needs a pair of budgies to keep up and tight the drawstring. I don't think the Saturday undies from Anko at Kmart are going to particularly do you well on the wet over there. It was just that funny kind of half, stuff like that keep happening. There was great scrap as soon as Trey Pritchard came on, making his debut 18, and he immediately lines up his brother and tries to clock him in the midfield. It just felt like that kind of big brother, little brother game all throughout, and it turned out to be a really sort of back and forward first half, all the way up until the Reds knocked over a penalty late in the piece to head up in the sheds, but it just kept seesawing. Suaalii Cale scored again. I don't know how he does it, but he gets over from close range as well, and he's showing all the tricks in the book at the moment, Big Charlie.
Yeah, he's definitely got his eyes on a Wallabies jersey later in the year, and this was a really interesting battle because the 2 8s going at each other and 2 very different ways of contributing to their team. Suaalii Cale's the one that actually scores the try. Harry Wilson, obviously the incumbent Wallabies number 8 and captain, he's back the last 2 weeks for the Queensland Reds, and they've looked so much better in attack with him on the field. He's not the player that's actually scoring tries, but particularly in that first half, he was the one that was very integral in setting up the tries. He was integral in both of, who was the first try to Anderson and then the second try to Fluke. Both really deft hands from Wilson, mind blank there, to get the ball back into the hands of the attacking players to actually finish it off. So really, really 2 very different types of players. And it's going to be a real interesting one later in the year to see which way Joe Schmidt goes, because whilst they're both great number 8s, they're actually quite different and they bring different things. And I don't think you can actually have both of those players in a forward pack at the same time.
No, it feels like it's a 1-2 punch waiting to happen, especially given how good Cale is in the air. Like we were talking about what they bring in attack, and I think you've nailed it with Wilson's passing game. He brings so much out of McWright. Like everyone talks about that combo, but look how much better McWright has played in the past 2 weeks with Wilson, on his edge. Cale, line-out wise, though, so solid. Like the Brumbies really did well in tough conditions around their set piece, and Suaalii Cale is their primary target at the moment, without Nick Frost, who apparently can't even make it into this team. So well has Lachie Shaw, Caden Neville, and Toby McPherson been playing. So pretty excited to see how that seesaw continues. But like Cale in the air is such a good weapon for Schmidt, and then later on in the year, Les Kiss at Wallabies level to draw upon. I think just the speed that he gets up off the deck, he's so explosive, he's tall, he's rangy, he gets a good shoulder in front at line-out time, and it's just such an asset to have someone who's so big and athletic who can cover 6 and 8. And you imagine probably like it's that 2-horse race between McWright and Daugunu to wear 7 for the whole 80 at the moment. So I'm expecting both Cale and Wilson around at 23 at some stage, but that was such a great battle. And like
I'm going to do it. Lucky, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it now. I know this is too early in the season to call. It is such a difficult decision to make.
Do it.
But you are Joe Schmidt currently, or Les Kiss later in the season. If you're picking the Wallabies tomorrow, who's your 8?
It's Harry Wilson. The 8's Harry Wilson, and I'd have Cale off the bench. I think I immediately go Valentini, McWright, Wilson, Cale comes off the bench.
If their jerseys are switched, if Cale was a Queenslander, would that change your selection at all?
Nah, like incumbent Wallaby captain, world number 8, contentiously, but I think, you're not going to change that McWright-Wilson combo. They're a package deal. I can see if they tweak around with the 7 that Cale can slot in as a starter, but at the moment that combo is not worth breaking up. It was just, unlike my voice, which apparently is getting emotional because it was such a good win. It was just fun. Like, it was a fun game of footy, and they go in at 1 point in at halftime after Louis Wirtshon goes, and then I thought, really, after that, like, it was a bit of a scoreless start. Like, that third quarter was attritional, and then like the Brumbies really put their nuts on the table, turned down 3 in front, right in front of the sticks, and it paid off because Andy Muirhead goes over from that quick tap move. And when Luke Reimer gets on, makes a huge impact and puts them ahead 31-20 in the 70-ish minute, 73rd. Like, it looked like game, set, match. I was ready to basically go, okay, another near run thing. Brumbies have done enough because they are just so clinical at home.
Yeah, there was really, those last 3-4 minutes of the game, there was a few questionable calls going both ways, and the referee just definitely put his whistle away, which, isn't a bad thing in terms of a contest. The Brumbies are probably feeling a fair bit hard done by that last try, the second last try, to Daugunu in the 79th minute. In the lead up to it, Andy Muirhead gets completely taken off the ball, and he's appealing. The Brumbies are appealing for the TMO to intervene, and the TMO just comes in and is like, it's all clear. I was like, how are we not looking at that? That was clearly a late shot that was high, and it looked bad. He looked like he landed really badly, and yet we're not looking at stuff like that. There was one last week in the Blues game as well where, actually, I think it was Muirhead again got taken off, or maybe Sapsford off the ball in the lead up to a try, and this is going to be a point that I've raised earlier in the year, and just harking back to, like, I feel like at the moment with the referees, we're trying to make the speed of Super Rugby so quick that we're actually missing things, and where and player safety and welfare is actually coming into contention now. Like, if there's a dangerous tackle off the ball and the TMO's not allowed to jump in and say, actually, we need to check this, like, that's dangerous. And if players are going to get hurt that way, and the referee can't say anything, and the TMO can't intervene, and the referee's like, let's just get on with it. Tries awarded, let's go, let's get back, let's keep playing footy. Like, that's pretty dangerous from a player perspective.
Well, it sets a bit of a dicey precedent, doesn't it? And it's that balance. We want the game to feel like it's constantly moving. We want to keep fatigue in the game, but you don't want to miss big things. And they don't come much bigger than the Daugunu drop. Like, the Muirhead one for me is like, it was 50-50. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if that was called back in like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But like, especially given they will pick up stuff around the ruck a lot more easily now. Like, referees seem to be cracking down across the comp on clears past the ruck, clears to the side, close stuff. Muirhead, that felt like a bit of an anomaly that it wasn't picked up. But, at this point, I've still got my Reds hat on and I'm still cheering like wahoo. As soon as that restart goes off and I see Daugunu put it down, I go, oh, it's game over. Like, how have they missed that? We touched on it at the start, but it seemed so obvious.
That's part of the point as well. Like, I think with the law variations that have been made and the changes to the process, the TMO protocol, he actually can't legally now jump in and say, hey, there's been a dead knock on here. We need to check this out. Like, it's not foul play. It's play on. The referees missed it. Whether Damon Murphy's unsighted, which he probably was, like looking at the replay from different angles, like he's obstructed by some of the players that are coming in around that area. He's probably also thinking about, that 10 meter around the ball carrier receiver, that rule, making sure people aren't intervening in that space. He's not thinking about looking for a knock on, which he should be. And it was so quick, happened so quickly. Is it a knock on? Is it not? The fact that the TMO actually can't jump in and say, we've had a clear knock on, the stand coverage can go back and watch it in slow motion so many times and highlight the mistake was made. But under the current laws in Super Rugby Pacific, the TMO can't intervene and say that. And ultimately, the Brumbies lose the game from it. Like, we'd be all outraged if this happened in the final. If this was the Chiefs and the Brumbies playing the final, and it was the Chiefs that scored off that, like, Phil Ward would be doing his nut. We'd be doing our nut. Everyone would. Oh, yeah. You're a Queenslander, so you're just happy to get the win. But the fact is, like, we can't be shooting ourselves in the foot for such clear and obvious things to be missed.
Oh, it looks amateurish, and like this isn't a particular go at any referee. This is the fact that very clearly in a critical part of a game, someone has clearly knocked the ball on, and it has given the opposing team an opportunity to win when they shouldn't have had that opportunity. It's still excellent footy from the Reds that they were able to take that from. Exactly. They took it 90 metres. Jock Campbell has no right to make that break go around. I thought he had an excellent game, and that kind of summed it up. Like he was just elusive. He makes the break from inside his 22, gets the kick away to Pritchard, and like the Brumbies still had chances to snuff it out. Austin Anderson like kicking himself that he gets all the way back in sort of scramble defence and then loses it trying to clutch onto that inside ball from Pritchard. So like it felt like everything that could have gone wrong for the Brumbies went wrong in the last 2 minutes. And poor Ryan Lonergan, like he goes off in the 77th minute. He says job done. Yeah. And like it's just all come crumbling down. He looked like he'd been slapped with a wet fish in the press conference. Like it was just like shock and why wouldn't there be as well? It was an insane finish. Got to spare a thought for Tane Edmed though. Like comes on after Declan Meredith's done a sterling job and misses a couple of tackles that lead to tries, including the last one on Carter Gordon. Like
he drops that ball.
Yeah, it was tough. Well. Tough going for him. But I'm keen to get your take actually on the flip side of that. Carter Gordon, his second game now. You were sort of 50-50 on him against the Highlanders, some good, some bad. How did you see this one?
I think, particularly from round one, where the team was with Harry McLaughlin-Phillips, and obviously we're taking into account that the round one team was a very injury-ravaged side that is nowhere near the best team or the 15 that Queensland can put out. But what Harry McLaughlin-Phillips and Louis Wirch on that game sort of were doing in attack was questionable. Like it looked aimless a lot of the time. With Carter Gordon there, they look like they know what they're doing in attack. The way that he's doubling up and he's sort of playing that link with the outside backs and coming back and having a second touch is freeing up the outside backs around him, and they're looking so much more dangerous with ball in hand. And I mean, to their credit, like they've just beaten the Brumbies in Canberra, and Carter Gordon's the guy that scores the try in the 82nd minute. So the fact is, if he's not on the field, he doesn't score that, and I think he's having a really positive impact for this Queensland Red side.
It's just the width. Like he's throwing passes that stick. They're out in front, like not on the chest, not reaching back. They're out in front, right in the window.
Oh, but we're not allowed. Sorry, we're not allowed to talk about long passes. Quade Cooper said no more of it.
Sorry, Quade. We'll bow to the big fella over in Japan. But seriously, like it's nice to see that consistency and the fact that Carter still has the running game as well. Like probably ahead of Tom Liner, ahead of HMP. Like he beats 5 defenders through the game. He's triple threat. So it made things very interesting. And I actually have to tip my hat to Louis Wirtschon. I thought he had an excellent game at 9. Not only did he nail all his kicks, but that's a good link that's starting to there. I don't see anyone picking Louis Wirtschon ahead of Tate when he's back, but it's good to know that there's more pressure behind Kalani Thomas, at least for this season, before Wirtschon goes off. Both sides had heroes. Who stood up for you? Let's start with the Brumbies, actually.
Quickly on Carter Gordon. I think one other thing that is really pleasing to see for Carter Gordon at the moment is like he's played rugby for years now. This is what his 4th or 5th year of professional Super Rugby after all this time at the Rebels. Has that year away from the NRL and comes back. What is pleasing though is that he's an experienced player now, and you need that experience in a fly half. And what was pretty evident late in that game was that there was one passage of play in the 80th minute, I think it was, where the ball got turned over 4 times. Everyone's off their feet. The players are literally, the props have just stopped. They've just given up. Everyone's exhausted. Players don't know what they're doing from both sides. They're all just sort of throwing the ball around willy-nilly. Carter Gordon's the one who gets his hands on the ball and kicks it into touch. And that's a really smart decision in that point, because you need someone to step up in those game-defining moments and say, actually, this is turning to shit for both sides. Someone's going to get a penalty here and they're going to win the game from it. Let's just get it out, go to touch, go back to a line out, and we'll reset. And Wirtschon wasn't doing that. Other players weren't doing that. Jock Campbell wasn't able to get his hands on the ball at that point. Carter Gordon steps up and calms things down. And that's the sort of thing that you need. Tane Edmed for the Brumbies was also guilty of throwing the ball around as well when they had the pill. So at this point, Carter's he's got that game awareness and that knowledge to slow things down when they need to, go back to set piece, which is a big improvement from having a young, inexperienced fly half, which some of the other super teams, particularly in Aussie, have at the moment, in those game minutes in the last sort of few minutes of the game where things start to get helter-skelter.
Well, and that's the thing that'll get picked up by Wallabies selectors, right? Like it's Schmidt's team for 3 games, but if Les Kiss keeps seeing what Carter's doing, especially with the ability to just calm things down a little bit, it feels like because there's been so much chopping and changing at 10 over the past few years, it is there to be taken long term, and you don't really rule out Carter locking that down with a few more big performances in the Reds jersey this year. Like the link there between him and Kiss is undeniable. If he continues to perform for the man who's going to be the Wallabies coach, that's going to count for more than someone else, unfortunately. Yeah. It seems unfair, especially some of the performances that Benny Donaldson's putting out. Noah Lolosio over in Japan's having a stormer at the moment with, I think it's Shizuoka, Blue Revs, where he's playing it. No, Shockey Shuttles, my apologies. It's recency bias, it's proximity bias. It will count for something down the line. So super exciting for Carter. Who else stood up? You had a few more lines on Gordon, and rightly so, but who caught your eye in this game? Because it's a big Aussie derby, especially for the Reds to get over the line. It took some big individual performances too.
Let's before we get to the Brumbies, let's talk just a little bit more about Reds. And Trayon Pritchard gets his debut for them. 17th minute he comes on for Lachie Anderson, who goes off, and I was really impressed with the minutes that he put in. He could have finished that break away from Jock Campbell and won the game without having to go to a scrum. He's in the right place at the right time, keeps the ball alive, does all the things that you want from an outside back, particularly someone who's so young. He's going to have a massive future.
He's a gun. He's a gun. We're stoked for him. He's young fella. Obviously, older brother Caden down there. Both come through Brizzy school system before Caden got picked up and stayed in Queensland, and he gets his debut against his brother. Rinsed him once early. He actually broke a tackle of Caden's, I think, later in the game as well. So, great gear for those two guys. And to finish up with 50 run meters in your first game, couple of tackle busts, he looked confident, and he's 18. We could conceivably have another 12 to 14 years of Trayvon Pritchard around Australian rugby, and that's exciting because he can cover, wing, centre, fullback. He's got all the tricks up the sleeve, and he'll fill out as well. He looked skinny and undersized out there. Give him 3-4 more years into his early 20s, and he's going to start being a really scary prospect. So I'm just stoked for him. It's awesome to see.
Yep. Now let's switch across to the Brumbies because obviously they're the top of the table at the moment in Australian rugby, particularly. I was surprised I guess surprise is the word, around the injuries that Andy Muir had, and not Corey Toole and was it Hudson Crichton?
Corey Toole and Ollie Sapsford.
Sapsford, that's it. Got withdrawn on Friday. So, and I think that actually had a bigger impact on this team than we initially suspected. Obviously, the two guys that come in to replace them, Kai Oates gets his debut for the Brumbies, and who was the other winger? Was it
Hudson Crichton?
Yeah, Hudson Crichton comes in, and look, they're not bad players in any shout of the imagination. Obviously, we're not calling them out for playing badly, but they just didn't have the impact that Corey Toole kind of has had the last few weeks. And you could sort of tell at times that their attack sort of stuttered a little bit, that they were a little bit indecisive at times, didn't quite know where to be and how to finish things off as much as they had with the players that were there weeks gone by.
I actually thought Coyotes played pretty well. It's a big change from Toole to Crichton, though. Like the kick pressure from the chase that Toole generates can't be understated. It's such a weapon, and obviously, like any loose ball that gets scooped up, it's 7 points. So you've got a real X factor person that's been pulled out, and Crichton, like, still a very solid, dependable player. Usually find him in the centres. Doesn't have the same pace. It wasn't bad, but just it's chalk and cheese, I think, compared to Corey Toole.
Yeah.
So I think you've nailed that. But Coyotes, I was pretty impressed. Like, he stuck his tackles, he worked hard with the ball, made some good meters. It's just that losing Toole, I think, was a huge deal. And also, like, Sapsford was really good against the Blues. Like, because he's able to cover 13 as well and cover both wings and 12 at a pinch. Like, I think that's a piece of the puzzle without Ikitau as well that really changes the balance of the Brumbies backline. So you lose two X7s players like that, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, definitely. And I think across the forward pack as well, obviously they had to rest Valentini due to the Wallaby rest protocol, but that almost looked like they missed his presence there.
Hugely. Like, and in our extra time as well with Fergo, we're talking about, hey, they lose Valentini, but you bring on Tualima, who was solid, but the impact with the ball is a completely different story. Like, you're losing not just meters gained, but post-contact meters. With Valentini, you lose extra starch in defence. You lose the two-time Wallabies best and fairest. Like, he again, a replacement you can't fully fit out. I thought, like, still, even so, the impact that Luke Reimer brings off the bench was again stellar. Charlie Cale was busy all night again. Both sides of the ball. Rory Scott doesn't miss tackles. Neville and Shaw. Like, I'm really impressed with Lachie Shaw. I don't know how they keep finding these great locks down at the Brumbies, but he's turned what was a pretty good season last year, where he started getting a few more minutes, more regular time with Nick Frost. He is now locking down that number 4, and I think eventually it will be like a Shaw and Frost situation, but they're making it hard. They're making it hard the way that they're playing. So massive ins to come still for the Brumbies. They should have won that game. They should be 4-0, and they are still without a lot of gun players.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything else you wanted to say? Because I am conscious of time and what else we need to cover on the podcast. And we've just talked about the Brumbies and Reds for 28 minutes.
Yeah, Aussie Derby stuff. I think we'll leave it there. And where do we go to? Do we go to the Force or the Tahs, Mitch?
When did the Tahs play? Let's go to the Force.
Good question. We'll do the Force. We'll do the Force. They go over to Dunedin. They're riding high off a bonus point win over... No, not a bonus point win. Over a big win over Minor Pacifica. Yeah. And honestly, with 10 to go, I thought the Force were home and hosed. The old boys, George Bridge and Kurtley Beale, put their side in front with, I think, 12 minutes to play. And it just, like, as it so often does in New Zealand, it slips away from an Aussie team. This was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, with a little bit of egg on both of our faces, or all three of our faces. If you tuned into our Extra Time podcast last week, we were writing this one off for a 50-60 point drubbing to the Highlanders. So the fact that the Western Force showed up and, went in ahead at halftime, managed to stay in the fight all the way up until sort of the last few minutes of the game where they lost it. is a real credit to them in the way that they've played. And like this, we were expecting this to be a massive blowout score with the Highlanders coming home off a travels away against the Reds last week, and then Jamie Joseph not getting the Wallabies, the All Blacks coach, due to potentially the form of the Highlanders at the moment. Like, the writing was on the wall for this to be a masterclass from the Highlanders, and to their credit, the Force showed up. They were physical. They did what they needed to do. They finished things late, which was really good to see, because that's probably one area of the game in the past few opening rounds of the competition where they've sort of faded late in the game and they've let the score slip. So the fact that they were still in it and nearly got the victory away from home in Dunedin is a good thing.
And it, like, you just got to put it down to their line out. It's rare that a specific set piece is such a strength for an Australian team. It's always like, oh, you go the Brumbies trope about their scrum and their maul is so good. But the Force's line-out was the best in the world last year, and it still is around the defensive side. They stole 7 line-outs off the Highlanders. The poor hosts just could not get any clean ball, and it was a constant thorn in the side. So, like, every time the Highlanders started getting a bit of momentum, started dragging away, as soon as it went to the side, and the Force were happy to pump it to the side, they just kept stealing it. So it would have been so frustrating for Jamie Joseph's side, but on the flip, like, they did such a good job at disrupting ball. Where the Force struggled, Mitch, was around breakdown. Like, Nawai went absolutely bananas, got over the pill, I think, for 3 steals in total at the end of the day, or 2 and a forced, and they just, like, the Force could not get their own clean ball. It felt at times like a really sloppy game, but other parts it opened up and was so expansive. So ultimately, I had a lot of fun, like, watching this one and seeing the back and forward. Like, when you've got a back three that the Highlanders have with Radamatavuki-Neepkins and Tangatau and Nareki, and they were so good all game. It was fun watching, but the Force, I was very impressed. Like, they should feel like not hard done by, because the Highlanders did enough late, but they'll rue that one, because that's
Did they get a losing bonus point?
They're just short. They're a point short of a losing bonus point. So they stopped the Highlanders getting a 3-try buffer bonus point. But, they just got short. And it was a former Force man, Rishan Pasatoa, who nails a late penalty to make sure of the win and remove that bonus point opportunity. It must have been tough for the Force guys to see a teammate of theirs just twist the knife late.
Yeah, no, it would have been. And, you know, he's almost becoming the one that got away. Like, he's been in the Australian system for so long and has had limited minutes. Like, he's had such an injury-ravaged last few seasons at the Force. He was at the Reds before that, was he? Or was it the...
he's Brumbies out of school from memory.
Brumbies, that's it. That's right, yeah.
But he was like the promised prince before Lolosio.
That's right. Like, he was the next up guy and then just never got that chance through injury and just so injury ravaged. But it's good just for him to see that he's over in New Zealand and he's getting game time. But, you know, the whole thought of what could have been, it's a bit of a heartbreaker when he's lining up and nailing penalties and winning games for his team against his whole team, the Western Force. So, yeah, that's tough to take. But, I was actually really impressed with the physicality that the Force brought in this game. Obviously, we've spoken about Nawai. I don't think any team in Super Rugby this year has actually figured out how to stop him. Like, he's literally a prop playing centre. He's just ridiculous.
Do you remember playing junior footy and there would always be that one massive kid who plays number 8, but at some point in the second half they put him at 12 and they just give him crash balls all day? Yeah. Like, it felt like that at times. He did it against the Reds in that second half of round 3, and he just had so many big tackle shredding runs that created opportunities. I think it was, it must have been just after half time, like around 50th minute or so. He just thundered right through the middle of the guts, and it led to Jonah Lowe's second try, and it finally put the Highlanders in front. Like, after, because the Force incredibly found themselves up at halftime after pinching 2 tries just before halftime, and we'll talk about Jeremy Williams in a tick. But, like, the Highlanders needed someone to just stand up for them after being rocked at Oranges, and it was all just Nawai. He got sick of the box kicks, the Force kicking really effectively, forcing errors, targeting their back three with high kick pressure, and Big Jim just said, "Nah, give it to me. went through about 3 or 4 defenders up the middle. Jonah Lowe scores, they're back in front, and from there, like, they just kept enough momentum to go. It was an awesome performance from him.
Yeah, it was. And as I said before, like, I think the Western Force did really well to hang in that game because I think we all expected it to be, 20 plus points differential.
Yeah.
So the fact they only go down by 8, which even in saying that, it felt probably too big for what that game actually was. Like, it felt like it should have been 1 or 2 points with how tight the competition was. Let's talk about that try to Williams. And I've also got another point that I want to bring up. That's not so much necessarily this game related, but it's another talking point that I know you've been banging on about on Scrumbag's Instagram for the last few weeks. So thoughts on the Jeremy Williams try first?
Love it. Absolutely love it. Nothing better than seeing someone know the laws, and he probably was the only person aside from Ben O'Keefe who knew what was going on.
I disagree.
When he got up, I actually don't think he knew what was going on afterwards.
That's what I mean.
So, like, it was weird because I thought it was a case of him knowing that when you go to ground, and for context for those people who haven't seen it, Jeremy Williams is pick and driving very close to the try line, is caught maybe 50 centimetres short, and he looks back to place for support and then looks in front of him, realises that there's no bodies, and just reaches over his head and places it forward over the try line, which is your one motion that you're allowed to do, and that's a try. But I don't think he quite believed it, because he got up and was asking like whether he'd been penalised or not.
Everyone thought he was penalised. And the interaction with Ben O'Keefe afterwards was quite hilarious. He's like, "Oh, you've given it. It's a try. Oh, great." The reason I don't think that should be a try is in the laws it says you have one movement, and when you go back and you actually look at it, he's placed the ball back. He's gone to ground and he's actually placed it back. Then realised that he's so close to the try line that he can actually reach the try line. Then puts the ball over his head and grounds it. Like, it's not actually they're two separate situations.
So you're saying it's a double movement because he's placed it back once and then he's gone over the head.
That's how I interpret it when I watch the replay. Like, it's not like he knew he was that close, went to ground and reached out straight away and grounded it, that's how Ben O'Keefe, I think, has interpreted it. So that's fine. That's a try. I initially saw him actually, do the crab, the place, shoulders hunched, place, realizes he's that close, then reaches over his head and grounds it. And yeah, I don't know. There was a very similar try actually in the Reds one that Filippo Daugunu scores, where he gets tackled, stops, realizes he's that close, and then rolls onto his back out of the tackle and scores a try, and they award it. I think that's also similar. It's like, you've got one movement. I don't think that you can actually stop that close to the line, realize where you are after committing to placing the ball back, and then make a change. I don't know if technically... I mean, I'm sitting here as a rugby fan on a podcast saying that they're wrong. Obviously, the professional Super Rugby referees are allowing it, so it must be right. I don't know. I don't know if that feels right. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think if Williams has placed it backwards very clearly first and then decided I'm going to place it forwards, that's double movement, because it says it right there. He has moved it twice. Whereas if it's just like he's gone to ground and goes over, that's play on. I didn't see clearly him place it back. But if he's done that, he's got away with it, I think. So I agree with you in that one.
That's why I thought he was so confused when he got up.
Okay. Look, it was just an interesting one because like the commentary team had a meltdown. They didn't know what was going on. The crowd had no idea what was happening, and it put them, I think that put them back in front, didn't it? Or he got them very close. Like it made it 17-14, and then Ben Donaldson breaks through and puts Hamish Stewart over to be ahead at halftime. So it ended up being a big play, not a match-winning play. But it's interesting seeing these little laws getting tested and pushed this year, like the diving over the rucks for tries, little movements close to the line. I always find it interesting when you get those situations around a ruck where a body on the ground creates space for someone to then quickly place it. Like I'm pretty sure we saw that against either the Reds or the Tahs did that earlier this year.
Did it.
Yeah, the Tahs did it. And I always think like if you're on the deck, you're actually out of the game. So you playing on the ground should be a penalty, regardless of which team it is. Like this isn't just tar bashing. But it's interesting to see these little things. Oh, it's always. Actually, no, it is tar bashing. But like when you're on the when you're on the deck, you're on the deck, right? Like you're out of the game. So you obstructing or creating space for other people to have opportunities feels like an infringement. But I'm sure we'll get these situations. So it feels like Super Rugby rather this year has so many eyes on these little testing edges of the law and the variations that it's going to be. I'm sure we'll have more situations like this to look at.
If there's one person in World Rugby that's watching every second with a microscope, it's Rassie Erasmus, because if he can figure out new ways to score points, you'll see it this year from the Springboks. My second talking point, which isn't necessarily about this game specifically, is around the coverage. And one thing I know you've been banging on about is about radio coverage. So one thing that I found has been really helpful for those, the 5:30, 5 o'clock kickoffs, the pre-Saturday night game, the Saturday afternoon game that's usually in New Zealand, is a lot of the time I'm out doing things. So I'm out with my son and we're out like at the park, we're going for a walk, we're doing stuff. Like I can't be at home on the couch watching Stan Sport. New Zealand rugby is great in that all of their games are covered on radio, free-to-air radio. So iHeartRadio, open it up for free. I think it's called Gold, something Gold, is the station in New Zealand, and they cover all of the New Zealand Super Rugby games. So for the last 2 weeks, I've been able to actually listen to the coverage live for free. And Lachie, I know this is something you've been going on about on Scrumbag's Instagram. Why are we not radio coverage of Super Rugby in Australia?
Are we going to do this soapbox now?
I don't know. Are we? I'm just.
Let's. Like with the doors open, we may as well kick it off as hinges. There is radio coverage in Australia. In fact, there is radio coverage of the home games for the Reds, the Brumbies, and the Force. It's just that no one knows about it, and it's not promoted very well. And frankly, I find it fascinating.
Even if you know about it, it's near impossible to find.
It's so hard to find. And this is part of it too. So we did a bit of polling over on the Instagram, and we had over 300 people eventually get back to us about, how do you listen to the radio or do you even know that it's on? More than 50% of people said, actually, we had no idea that this is a thing. So ABC takes a call of home games from Suncorp for the Reds. It also takes a call of home games for the Brumbies at GIO. So last night's blockbuster, the Aussie Derby, there was an ABC radio call. You need a bloody criminology degree and a Sherlock Holmes eyeglass to find these fuckers. It is so hard. You got to dive into your ABC Listen app or dial into the local state-based ABC station at the correct time. It feels like you're doing some kind of like online gaming thing. You're waiting for everyone to log on.
It feels illegal.
Yeah, it feels dodgy. Like a bootleg call. And then for the Force, it's on Sport FM, I think 91.3 or 3.1.
And Lachie, where can you listen to Tahs games?
Well, Mitch, you can't. And that is the shocker, right? Like it's the biggest and most competitive sporting city in Australia, which is the most competitive sporting market in the world.
Isn't
and the Tahs don't have a call. Nah, it's leg tennis. So that baffles me because yes, if you get through all the ABC dials of the Sport FM, you can find those home games. But the fact that the Tahs haven't pushed into radio when ABC carries hours and hours and hours of NRL and AFL content every day just feels like a huge what if. And yes, you want people to come to games. I understand that. But you also need people to know that they're on. And people who can't be there, especially if they're in the car, having a radio call is so great. I'm very clearly a rugby man, but I will still listen to ABC calls of league and NRL or the Triple M or of whatever. If it's AFL, if it's cricket, if it's league, whatever's on in the car if you're driving, because you want to know. You want to feel like you're being a part of what's happening in the weekend. And it feels like rugby has kind of slipped out of that cultural zeitgeist of Australian radio completely. There were some great calls during the Lions series. Like Quinton Hull calling the second test as Hugo Keenan goes over is a phenomenal call. Heartbreaking call. But so few people listen in on the radio. So like if we're wrong here and there is a subculture of people who are super into listening to the call, let us know. But I just wonder whether people just don't care anymore. If the times have changed and people either will just wait for the highlight to pop up on their phone or they'll just pay for Stan or they're not listening at all.
Well, I think you're going to be a real rugby nuffy if you're going to go to the added the effort of trying to find Super Rugby on some kind of free to air coverage on the radio. Like the amount of people that are just going to be, it would be very minimal. The amount of people who are just going to have that on a Saturday afternoon, evening, and be like, oh, Super Rugby, Waratahs are playing. How good's that? I mean, that's not the point of it, is it? But the fact that it's not even like it's hard to find even if you want to. Look, I almost feel like it's an opportunity for Super Rugby as an organisation to really embrace it and just have it. Look, to their credit, if you go onto the Super Rugby website, this is the global one, the one that's not rugby.com.au, not New Zealand Rugby, the actual Super Rugby website. There's a page on there that says coverage, and it tells you where all of the all the host broadcasts on New Zealand, where it's broadcasted. Look, it even lists international. So if you're in the UK, if you're in America, where you can go and watch the Super Rugby games. That's how I actually found out that the New Zealand games are covered on New Zealand radio. And that's how I went and through iHeartRadio found the New Zealand coverage, and I've been listening to like the Western Force. I listened to the Canes and Highlanders game the other week, or Moana, whichever one it was. So it's actually been really good to have that as an outlet. It's almost like you wish that the competition itself would have like one radio partner that they just partnered with, because that's one thing about Australian rugby that is so frustrating, is that it's just different. Everything is run differently. Everything's run individually. Like if you want to go and listen to an NRL radio station, you just go to one station and they'll cover all of the different games. And they might have like, if it's, I think Triple M does NRL, and they'll do the two games on two different channels that are on at the same time. Whereas in Super Rugby, like we were just saying, you have to go to ABC for Canberra, you have to go to someone else for Queensland, and then somewhere else for Perth, and then Sydney doesn't have it. It would be great if the organisation just got behind this and had one coverage team that covered all of them.
I feel like it's something that's lacking in rugby's interface. So like Rugby Explorer, if you've had the pleasure of dealing with that, is finicky at the best of times. And like if like you look at the NRL and the AFL apps, for example, as you mentioned, they have in their match centres a little button, and you just click on that and you can pick what broadcast you want, whether it's a paid one through KO, whether it takes you to 9 and 9 Now, whether it takes you to the radio station. It's all there and the interface is easy. If you go into Match Centre or you're following the live blog or the recap on rugby.com.au, you cannot get a link through to a live call. I think that would be a no-brainer to add in so people can follow along live, because it's not at the expense of...
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think rugby.com.au used to do that.
Rugby.com.au used to have a radio call. Yes, Swaney used to do it. I'm pretty sure Andrew Swain and a couple of other callers, maybe even like early Shawnee, he might have to flick us a DM and see if that's the case. But I know that Swaney used to do calls on rugby.com.au.
Just side note, where was Swaney on Friday night? Oh,
well, I mean, it's almost the perfect segue, calling into phenomenally disappointing games. Like... let's do it.
No, did you have anything else? You were sorry, I did interrupt there. You were halfway through a point. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think it's just like make it easy. So if we've got all these things, if people are covering the game on the radio and it's a free way to engage, just embed it. Like it's no skin off RA's nose to direct people to listen to their product. So I don't know what they lose by including that. It seems like an easy win to go, hey, here's our live scores, it's rolling. You can keep an eye on it here if you're not on Stan. If you want to listen in, click this button. It will take you straight away to the broadcast and you can listen and follow along. It's just like it seems an easy win.
Side, like other suggestion, in today's economy, today's changing consumer market, the way we actually consume content, streaming's king, right? Who's actually realistically who's tuning in on a AC radio anymore to try and find coverage? Rugby.com.au, which is owned by Rugby Australia, should call or have a call of all of the Australian Super games. Do it and stream it for free on the website. Like we've spoke. It doesn't have. It could be Stan Sport, but I understand why it might not be able to be because of contractual obligations and whatnot, and the fact that that's not on free to air. But then get someone else. I know a great bloke who does a podcast called Scrumbags, who calls games and under 20s level and Hospitals Cup and all kinds of things. Like there's people out there who would do that, would call the game for them, stream it for free through rugby.com.au. Even if you only get 50 people listening, the fact is we're talking about rugby is behind paywalls. It's not accessible. It's not on free to air. let's make it on free to air. That's one way to get it out there for free.
No, there are people far more qualified than us to jump on and do live calls, but I think the difference there is that because RA has that commercial partnership and that broadcast partnership with Nine, they are contractually obliged to help steer people to Nine's content. So I don't think we're ever going to see an in-house stream from rugby.com.au when Nine and a paying audience is what they want. They want the most out of each other's partnership, right? So they don't want to give a free option that means people could stop paying Stan to get their rugby content. Whereas given that the ABC and Sport FM are separate, those should be promoted. Those are fine because those are currently available and they'll be available regardless of the Nine partnership. That's where I see the ease of access to getting some form of radio around your ears. I see that as an opportunity. But also, fuck it, maybe we just do our own bootleg call. Maybe we let us know. Do you want us to do a radio call? Do you want us to just shut up?
Would you
it doesn't
tune in?
matter either way. Yeah, would you care? Maybe a Reds Tahs next week. Oh, could be a bit of fun.
Could be
to
Watch
determine who is the, I don't know, does that make us the best Australian team now that the Brumbies have finally lost? I don't know.
So the Tahs have beaten the Reds, who the Reds have beaten the Brumbies. Therefore, the Tahs currently are the Super Rugby champions.
And those Super Rugby champions are coming off a 59-19 loss at Allianz Stadium. We have to take off this band-aid, Mitch. Friday night promised so much. The first big derby for Trans-Tasman glory in Australia. And it all started, like the wheels came off before the game started because Joseph Akuso Suaalii has apparently stuffed his ankle. It could be out for 5 weeks. And
it's his hamstring, actually. So
he
rolled his ankle in the warm-up, and in doing so has pulled his hamstring and is potentially out for, Dan McKellar thinks 5 weeks. He said weeks. Like, this isn't he hasn't given a time frame, but it's weeks. It's a long injury. And that's, look, the 59 to, 19 scoreline, not great. Definitely not great. There's no highlights out of that. The biggest thing for me as a Waratahs fan, look, we don't have to go too much into it. I'm sure most people don't want to listen, don't want to hear. I go on for so long on normal podcasts and we can just do 5 minutes on this. But I really feel like the Waratahs season now is under threat. And the biggest thing for this, coming out of this game, is like last season's, like at least last year we went 5 wins on the bounce. In the opening 5 rounds of the competition, we got through and we won all of them. This is round 4, but our third game, and we've already taken our near biggest ever defeat at home. Biggest defeat in Sydney since 2002. And we've lost Joseph Akuso Suaalii, even though everyone's talking about where is he playing, 13's not his position, rah, 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 rah. George Pullman comes in as his replacement, and he's not it. He's not it.
Well, look where the Canes did their damage. They did it through the midfield. They exploited it, and like Proctor, Bale and Sullivan running links around through the midfield. Like they all had field days. And this was highlighted really well actually by our mate Nath Williamson over at rugby.com.au. He was talking about how everyone's been talking Suaalii's attack, where is he? He's gone missing in attack. But what he's done so well, and it's something we've touched on, he has not missed a tackle in those first 2 rounds. He has been a rock defensively. Doesn't matter how he gets them down, he's been getting them down. He's been pushing up, shutting down space. His absence was so keenly felt in the 13 channel. And I think you don't realise just how good you had it with him defensively. It was not something we expected to say at the start of the season. Suaalii's defence is the highlight, but when you ship almost 60 points to admittedly a very good Canes team, and you wonder where it went wrong. It went wrong before the game started. Massive change.
Look, I think it's a little bit too hard to say that George Pullman was the reason that we lost this game. I don't think it was all on him. I think the back line, like to their credit, the Hurricanes had done their homework and they made the Waratahs, particularly in that second half, they made their rush defence look like a 12-year-old side. Like the Kellaway, Riley, Walton and Pullman together. Jorgensen, I'll actually say, was probably one of the only players who did what he needed to do. Created things from nothing, but also like he stuck his tackles and was good in defence. The other guys in the back line, like they were rushing up into no man's line so many times. The Hurricanes just ran around them. like the 2 tries they scored in the first half, Tristan Riley comes out of his line, disconnected to everyone else in the back line, rushes up into the space, not to shut down the ball carrier or the guy outside him, just into the space, and they just pass around him and go wide and score. Like, I know that the Waratahs have been working on developing a system that is quick off the line and get up into the opposition's face, which, to their credit, worked against the Reds round 1 and the Drua round 2. But whether it's personnel or it's just individual players in this new system that just aren't actually sticking and nailing their roles individually, the Hurricanes were not troubled by it.
And we say it's not all down to Pullman, and it's not, but they're going through the space that Suaalii was marshalling for those first 2 rounds. And you're right, it was so disconnected. Yes, Riley's first start, I think, for the season, from memory. Kellaway's first start as well, I think first game. And it just
he played
looked
trials. He trialled.
Oh, sorry, first Super game. And they just, defensively were in a shambles. There's not a lot of good to come out of this game for the Waratahs.
I just think that kick over the top. Kick over the top. Where was Kellaway?
No man's land.
Yeah, all of them
nowhere. Yeah, and we saw glimpses of that. I think the Fijians did a good job of getting Hendren out of position as well. Like, there was that nice long ball across that Rakuro, I think, scored in that round 2 game. But it's just you would expect there to be a bit more coherence, and in the same token, why would there be when they haven't played in that combination for this year? So it's tough to see. Sorry, the reason I just popped the mic up, update from the Waratahs as we're on air. Following results of a scan yesterday, Joseph Akuso Suaalii will now miss 6 to 8 weeks of action.
That's great, isn't it? I love that.
That is just thrilling. Wouldn't you love that as a bean counter?
How much are we paying this bloke to sit on the sideline? This is his 2nd year in a row where he's missed good 8-9 weeks of the season.
That's crazy. You would be so upset. Like, poor Dan McKellar. Like, he's waiting to use this guy and he never gets to use him. It's just, it's nightmare fuel. The gate takings, the bean counters, people at RA, Daceyville just look at this and go, what have we done to deserve this? It's nightmare. It's worst possible case scenario. What else can we even pick out of this game? It was bad.
I think the forwards is one thing that we saw the starting 2 games from the season is that the forwards were really aggressive, particularly in attack, at the breakdown. And what they were doing so well is that shift, the options, I almost call it the Irish attack system, where they go to a pod and then they flick it on quickly. And it's like there's 3 options available and the defense don't know which one they're going to go to. Didn't see any of that this week. And even on our own ball in attack, we just looked so far off the pace that the Hurricanes just were having a field day of getting over the ball quickly. Like, one thing that I have been really proud of the Waratahs in the opening 2 rounds of the competition for them was that when they got in the opposition 22, they were just able to quickly create momentum. They would be able to pick and drive, and the speed of ball was getting the opposition offside. They were playing with advantage. They were scoring tries by doing that. Didn't see any of that this week. And so when you've got a team that is losing the battle of the breakdown in the forwards, the scrum looked completely... The line out looked all over the place with Folau Fatanga'a, unfortunately. He just looked like he hadn't played with the forward pack, which he hasn't. And we weren't winning scrums. The backs just weren't defending. They weren't attacking. Like, it was a horror show. It was a car crash for the Waratahs, and it's a reality check for them. And it's going to be that much sweeter when we go to Brisbane on Saturday night and beat the Reds by 50 points.
Them's fighting words. Well, you know what you need to do to fix it? It's not just breakdown, it's physicality. Like, the Canes absolutely monstered them when it came to carry meters post-contact. It was the boys against men. By the numbers, the Canes had 2 less carries across the game. So it was 110 carries from the Tahs, 108 from the Canes. Yet, the Waratahs carried for 280 metres, the Canes for 553. It's just almost doubled. They almost doubled their output with the ball, and that is not good enough. So defensively, like, how the Tahs front up is going to be massive coming up against the Reds, who will have their tails up, rightly or wrongly, after that win. They will be so confident and getting it to Suncorp, where I'm not sure the Tahs have won since 2020. No, Tahs haven't won in Queensland since Super Rugby AU. So they're chasing a win, chasing hard, and
We've
this is
won
going
in
to be a big
Narrabri. Does
litmus
that count?
test.
Oh, that's New South Wales.
That's in New South Wales. They
Isn't that where Harry
it's a big
Wilson's
litmus
from?
test. No, he's from Canada.
Still New South
no.
Wales.
Yeah, no, Sid Harvey's
That's
a
it.
blue ball.
Oh,
that's the one.
That's who we
He
need to
was
talk
good.
about.
That's
Harvey.
a good thing to talk about. Mate, he's awesome.
Andrew Kellaway
he's such a
2.0.
talent. But Kel's with like a big left foot, a bit more height, probably a touch more pace given the age profile, and better in the air. Like I see big things for Sid Harvey's future.
Do you think he makes the 15 next week?
I think he could. There's going to be some shuffling, right? So like it kind of ties into our extra time chat from 2 weeks ago. What do we do with Suaalii? Well, now they have to do something because he's not there, so they don't have to worry about it. So who goes into 13? Massive question. It could be a Kellaway.
I think it might
He's
be.
played 13 for the Rebels. That creates opportunities on the wings or at fullback. I think Sid Harvey could go to a wing, Jill go to a fullback role. But I definitely see Harvey in the 23 by necessity over the coming weeks. And that's going to be great for his development. If there's one silver lining to losing your star boy in Suaalii, it's that you bring on a Sid Harvey who's great off the tee, who's got great feet, who can jackal, who can go one-on-one defensively. I think we're going to see this as a massive opportunity for a really exciting young talent coming through over the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, if there's one highlight out of this game, it's Sid Harvey. And yeah, I personally, I think Kellaway shifts to the centres because Pullman at the moment isn't it. And I mean, poor guy, like he, in the warm-up, he wasn't in the 23. Next minute, he's starting and he's meant to be replacing Joseph Akuso Suaalii. And he's wearing his jersey as well, which looked, just didn't look quite right on him. Yeah, really hard, like club debut for him, but I don't know if he's the answer. So yeah, Kellaway I think shifts in just because he's got a little bit more experience there. And for mine, Sid Harvey comes onto the bench. Into 15.
I think it could be like they could keep Pullman for continuity. I have no idea how much centre Kellaway's been playing through the year.
We want to win. You want to
good.
keep Pullman there. We want to win.
No, I'm not. This isn't a sleeper agent call. This is just like I imagine that Kellaway probably hasn't been training a lot at 13.
Yeah.
So
true.
to ask him to do a job on Paisami, Fluke, Henry, Daugunu with a week's prep is probably a bit stiff. But having Pullman there backing him, like it would be a huge blow to your confidence as well. You come in off the 23 when Suaalii is injured, you have one game that's a bit of a stinker on debut and you get dropped straight away. Like I know it's professional footy, but is that the best way to develop him as a Waratah? We'll find out. It's a massive test and it's high stakes, not only because it's interstate and it's scrum back shield, but because it is 5v6. Like both the Tahs and the Reds are somehow still top 6 after 4 weeks. Winning this game is almost double points when it comes to qualifying later in the year. So we have a massive, massive game coming up.
And we need to put it on. Maybe we'll save it for extra time once we've seen the lists. But we need to put it out there that the scrum bag shield, like New South Wales is currently the holders of that shield.
Current holders.
What does the loser have to... Is it a TikTok dance? What do they have to lose? What's their punishment?
I reckon it's a jersey. I reckon the loser has to wear the opposite jersey on the next episode and not only wear it, but have it bought fresh and new.
Oh, new? Come on, mate.
Well, I haven't got a Tahs jersey because why would I? Have you got a Reds jersey floating around?
Yeah, I've got one. I could.
Okay, well, put it this way. If the Reds lose, I'll buy a Tahs jersey and wear it on the pod.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah,
that's fair. Because in fairness, they've got some nice kit. I might try and wrestle up a retro one. But under pain of death and only if it's a loss. And there won't be a loss because the Reds will win handsomely at Suncorp. Brumbies against the Fijian Drua is also up for next week. We'll talk about that more on extra time. And the poor old Force have a nightmare game ahead against the Hurricanes in Wellington. So lots to look forward to for extra time. But we want to finish on a little Six Nations, Mitch.
Actually, just before we get to that, because we have missed this the last few weeks and we apologise for that. But an update on our tipping and our fantasy. So big shout out to friend of the pod, Simon, who is actually going in our fantasy team as Smoky Clouds. He's currently sitting second. But we should have called him out the last 2 weeks because he's been winning both of the last 2 weeks of the competition. So sorry, Simon, but here's your shout out. Last week he was like 5th or 6th ranked in the world. Like he's doing that well. So well done to Simon.
Jeez.
Wobbly Elephant this week's taken the first place. So unfortunately you've gone down a point there. Across over to tipping, we've got TJ Hump and Stuff is up in first place this week. So well done to them. I'd just like to shout out to myself a little bit of pat on the back that I was coming last going into this competition, and I backed the Queensland Reds by 2 points, so they've got me into 6th position. So thank you,
Well
Queensland
done.
Reds.
I'm amazed that you tipped them. I'm very grateful for it, and we're also very grateful for Damon Murphy. So thank you, sir. Six Nations, very quickly, Mitch, before we wrap up. Holy. I don't think I've seen a better round of Six Nations ever. Starts with the Irish getting a scrappy win over Wales in the alternate kits. That's a conversation for a different time.
What about that prop? The
Reece
Welsh
Carr.
prop.
Reece Carr with the 35-metre, make it 70-metre charge downfield, beats the Irish winger Balakoon and scores. That was one of the great prop tries.
Oh, so good. Like, obviously, the Wales not going too well at the moment and didn't get the win here, but to see prop score tries like that, that's almost like a bonus point in of itself.
But it's important brownie points when it comes to just feeling good about Wales. God, they need it. They need it. I don't think they have won a game in the past 3 Six Nations, and it's really starting to pile up.
Surely they've won
starting to
one in
really
the last
hurt.
3 years.
Italy's beaten them
Italy
in
beat
the
them
past
3
2
times?
years. I'm pretty sure this is now their 3rd year without a win. I think it could be their 2nd year, but I'm pretty sure it's their 3rd year without a win. It's gnarly stuff. They go down to Ireland 27-17. Not a lot else to call out except for a wonderful line of commentary that I want to share with you from this game, Mitch. Jamie Osborne, the Irish fullback, goes over with 10 minutes to play for an unassailable lead, and the commentary caller says, "That's a tranquilizer dart to the brave rump of Wales." Phenomenal. So good to see. I love the European callers.
I need you to call that, slip that into one of your calls coming up.
I might have to. It's great fun. Then we move. Oh, which one do we do? Let's do Scotland next. So then we go to Edinburgh. We go to Murrayfield, and we see the most insane result. Scotland 50 defeat France 40. Gus Gardner, our own Aussie Gus, is in the middle of this one. And after a sort of seesawing first half, Scotland go up 19-14 after some amazing tries from both teams. The Scots went absolutely apeshit. 4 tries in quick succession. They got up to a 47-14 lead, and then France almost pulled it back. They scored like just after full time as well to get it a bit close. They got their bonus point, so it leaves them still on top of the standings. But Scotland are in the race with a week to go. They are still in the hunt for their first ever Six Nations title.
Yeah, they're neck and neck in like equal first place with France, right? They're 14 points each, I think.
I think the French have a bonus point ahead, so it's 15-14.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes, it's very tight at the moment. Let me quickly pull up the ladder.
But I think what's most
so I'm not
exciting
lying.
from an Australian rugby perspective is that, like, with Sione Tuipulotu over there as their captain and Jack Dempsey running around for them as well, like, this is an Aussie win. So
Yeah,
if Scotland win the Six Nations, Aussies won something. So it should be like a joint partnership.
Well, Scotland's Australia A. Always has been.
Yeah.
So it's great to see them doing well.
Too bad they've beaten Australia the last, 6 times we've played them.
Well, it
Maybe
doesn't
West
count if we
Scotland
also
B.
have... We need some Scotland players to balance it out. No, you're right, actually, on the ladder. France and Scotland are equal on 15. It's just the French have a massive points difference.
Yeah.
So they have, I think, 79 points ahead. They're
I mean,
plus
conceding
79.
50 points this week didn't help that out at all.
Well, I mean, they scored 40, so like it's only 10 overall. But like the Scots, that's massive. I don't think anyone saw that coming. And importantly for Scotland, it means that they leapfrog Ireland on the standing. So Ireland are on 14, France on 15, Scotland on 15. So it's just sets up an
Who does
epic
Scotland
finale.
play next week?
You've got me on the hop here.
That's all right. That's fine.
Do you want to quickly pull
but
that
the
up?
reason I ask, have you seen this kind of memes that's going around with Scotland getting the Sione Tuipulotu getting the trophies the last 2 weeks from I don't know which royal member it is.
Oh, Princess Anne.
Yes. And like he's been going for a hug each week and she just doesn't give it to him. Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, so everyone's calling
awesome.
for him next week. If they win the Six Nations, he wants to get a hug from her. And he comes up, he's like, hey.
He'll get it.
And she's just like...
He'll get it. He'll get it if they win. The patron saint, the what do they call them? The emissary, the doyen, or whatever they're called,
Yeah,
of Scottish rugby. Maybe just the patron. It's epic. It sets up an epic final weekend because Ireland hosts Scotland next week. So that will the loser of that rather is out of the running.
Yeah.
They're done. They're done. But before we get to that quick prediction, the best game, it wasn't Scotland, France. It was Italy getting it done over England in Rome at the Stadio Olimpico, 23 points to 18. Thomas Menoncello might be the best player and most handsome man alive because he single-handedly dragged the Italians to a come-from-behind victory, scored a massive solo try, laid on the final try assist after a line break. This was something that everyone has been praying for in Northern Rugby.
Like, Italy is just on an absolute tear at the moment. Like,
So
it really puts into perspective that loss last year. And Dave Rennie gets the sack after Italy beat the Wallabies a few years ago. And look what they're doing now. Like, they've beaten everyone in the Six Nations now in the last 2 or 3 years. Like, they no longer are they the easy beats of the competition. That the Six Nations now is a legitimate competition where anyone on their day can get a win.
It's nuts. And like not 3 years ago, there were calls that Georgia should be in the Six Nations instead of them.
And everyone bar Wales is beating England, which is even better.
Exactly. There was a great graphic that our mate Dan over at Short Ball put up, and it's that Italy has now beaten every single Tier 1 country except the All Blacks. And at the very top of that list was South Africa. So he's having great fun stirring the pot. We've obviously lost to them the past 2 times, but
last time Dave Rennie
is different gravy.
Italy as a head coach, he lost. So, he
did.
Deja vu.
You look at, and they're playing at Wellington.
In Wellington. Too. I know Ella Ferguson
Anything could happen.
on social media is getting really scared about that result.
And they should. I think the All Blacks will probably dust them still. But like this Italian side is so awesome. Again, Monty Ioane, Louis Liner, Aussie's doing well. Garbisi is becoming a very well-rounded fly half as well. But it's the Menoncello show. Like he and Sione Tuipulotu are easily the best inside centres in the world at the moment. And it's just awesome to see the Italians doing so well. So they currently sit in 4th. They're set for their best finish in a very long time, perhaps ever, should they beat Wales in Cardiff next week. So they're looking good. They're looking good for potentially a 3rd-place finish, which would be incredible.
That'd be awesome.
Final round coming up for Six Nations. We talked about Ireland, Scotland. In Dublin, whoever loses that game cannot win. They'll be out of the running. Conversely, Ireland... If they get the chockies there, they put themselves in a good position. If Scotland win, because they have the extra bonus point on 15, they will go outright first on the ladder because the final game of the Six Nations, now Wales and Italy won't affect the standings overall for a winner, but France-England at the Stade de France, that will decide who wins. And England are coming off their nightmare Six Nations tournament. It's been an absolute shocker for them. They now go up against France, who will be stinging from that loss, who need the win. I am hoping that they put 50 on them at Stade de France next week.
Wait, you're hoping that England get smashed, or you're hoping that England beat them?
I'm hoping England gets smashed.
I want Scotland to win the Six Nations, though, so I'm hoping for a small upset.
Ooh,
England win by a point or 2.
Maybe it's a bonus point thing. Maybe France win without a bonus point and Scotland win on points.
That'd be good.
That would be nice.
And France is wearing that heritage jersey. I don't know if you've seen that going around on social media.
Oh, that's a nice bit of kit.
Yeah, if you haven't checked it out, go and have a look because that's going to look really good next week.
Are England going to wear black? Because that kit's very light blue.
No idea.
I'll have to find out. La Crunch. It's going to be an awesome final round. That's pretty much it for the on-field antics. The Vancouver Sevens are on at the moment. If Sevens is your thing, the Aussies got off to a good start. Both teams were 2-0 on day one after big wins, especially for the men. They beat Argentina, and I'm pretty sure they got the Chockies over... I don't want to say Fiji. I can't remember who they got just before, but they've been starting well too. So make sure you tune into that on Stan or follow along on rugby.com.au. Mitch, this has been a massive episode. Are there any other bits of business to finish out on?
I'm just looking forward to next week when the Waratahs can get back to their winning ways and retain the Bob Templeton Cup and the Scrumbag Shield and reclaim their space on top of Australian Super Rugby.
It's going to be an awesome weekend ahead. There's nothing better than a bit of derby action, especially after the Reds got away with murder this past weekend. Thank you for your company here on Scrumbags, wherever you're listening into on your pod platform of choice, or on Patreon or on YouTube. If you're not on Patreon and you're looking for an extra episode every week, please subscribe via our socials. You get Extra Time, which is a fresh episode just for subscribers. Drops on a Thursday where we go through teams, we go through news of the week. It's like Inside Line, but far more professional.
Yeah, it doesn't have Justin Harrison, so it's already better.
Thank you very much for your company. We'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
We're not going to France for the croissants.